They left me to die and disappeared as if I were a stranger. But I survived, and now they'll have to pay for their betrayal. Everything started suddenly. October in Chicago was unusually gloomy. In the evenings, I sat at the window of our cozy 3-bedroom apartment, absent-mindedly going through paperwork from the office, feeling the exhaustion growing heavier each day. That fatigue had been with me for about 3 months. Every morning, as I got out of bed, I promised myself I would make a doctor's appointment, but endless reports on economic forecasts for the architectural firm always pushed concerns about my own health into the background. "Kate, you need to take a break," Tom would say, not looking up from his laptop and yet another project. He worked as a department head at a large construction company, but there was never any time for anything personal. The pain came suddenly. At first, just odd twinges under my ribs, then attacks that took my breath away. On that December evening, when I sank to the floor in the bathroom, pressing a towel to my mouth so my family wouldn't hear, I realized I couldn't put it off any longer. At the public clinic, an elderly doctor reviewed my results for a long time. "Kate Johnson, how long have you noticed the swelling of your lymph nodes?" he asked, looking up at me. "Swelling of what?" I asked again, not understanding. After 2 weeks of tests, during which Tom suddenly became very attentive, and Sarah grew scared and then irritable with everyone around, the diagnosis hit like a bullet. "Lymphoma stage 3. Urgent chemotherapy is required." Tom sat beside me in the oncologist's office. A tall man, normally confident, now pale and lost. His fingers entwined with mine were cold, as if he, not I, had just received a death sentence. "But there are so many new treatments now," he said, desperate. "Of course," the doctor nodded. "Survival rates with this diagnosis are quite high, but it's going to be a long road. We'll get through this," Tom said, sitting at the edge of my bed. "I'll take care of everything. Vacation, sick leave. We'll send Sarah to tutors so she won't be distracted, and I'll be here." I nodded, though for some reason, I didn't quite believe him, much as I wanted to. The first round of chemo hit not only the tumor, but my whole life. My hair fell out in clumps. I was nauseous for days. I stared in horror at a stranger's yellow, haggard face and sunken eyes in the mirror. The first 2 weeks, Tom was the perfect nurse, making broth, managing my meds, driving me to the clinic. Sarah tried to help, but more often broke down in tears or anger or teenage rebellion. I didn't blame them. By the 3rd week, Tom was working late. Sarah spent more nights at her friends, and I was left alone and scared. Another attack? Another fainting spell? Or what if I forgot to turn off the stove? I really did forget, once. Porridge boiled over, smoke filled the kitchen, I didn't hear a thing. I dozed off from the meds. Tom came running thanks to the neighbors, threw open the windows, then sat with his head in his hands. "This can't go on, Kate. You'll burn us all down," he said quietly. On a gray February morning, I woke to a strange silence. On the kitchen table was his note, in big, familiar handwriting. "We're at my mom's. You need rest. You'll manage on your own. It's too hard for us. I'll call." I sat down, staring out the window at the falling snow, completely alone. That's when everything really started. For the first 3 days, I barely got out of bed, my strength trickling away like sand. Tom checked in, asked if I was okay, promised to come by after work, but always found an excuse to postpone. Sarah sent me short texts with more emojis than words. I realized If I didn't do something, I might not survive to the next round of chemo. A social worker from the local clinic, whom I found by going through every urgent contact I could, turned out to be unexpectedly competent. Melissa Carter, she introduced herself on the phone. 32, survivor, 2 years experience as a caregiver, degree in psychology, excellent references. My personality is not exactly sweet. I don't need sugar, I whispered. I need someone who can help me not to die. Melissa arrived the next day, a petite, fragile-looking woman with curly reddish hair in a loose ponytail. Her sharp eyes instantly assessed both me slumped on the couch and the neglected apartment. "Okay, Kate Johnson," she said briskly. "First, routine. Second, diet. Third, procedures. Fourth, positive mindset. Though getting that out of you may take forceps." Within the hour I was sitting in the bathtub, Melissa helping me get there, and she was airing out the apartment. After, a light vegetable soup. She'd prepared it somehow without me noticing. Her confident, quiet manner gave me hope, but there was no pity, no fuss, no false promises. "Have you gone through this?" I asked. "Yes," she answered shortly. "And how did you manage?" "The same way you will." She shrugged. By the end of the week, it was clear. Melissa was a godsend. She knew when to let me cry, when to order me out on the balcony for sun and vitamin D, when to be silent or speak. Tom called on the 8th day. "Kate, how are things? We're worried." "I'm fine. We have Melissa now." "Melissa who?" "The caregiver." An hour later, his mother, Sarah Miller, called. A forceful woman who'd always thought I wasn't good enough for her son. "Kate, is it true you've taken in a stranger? Did you even think of your husband? What will people say?" I couldn't hold back. "The husband who left a note and moved in with you?" "Yes, I thought about it." Melissa, sorting out my medications, was silent. But that evening, as she tucked me in, she said, "Relatives are always more afraid of what illness reveals in themselves than of the illness itself. Give them time." "I don't have much time," I replied. "Then don't waste it on anger," Melissa said firmly. Spring brought me new strength. I got through the 3rd round of chemo more easily. "You have to keep your capillaries moving," insisted Melissa, "or you'll get blood clots and even chemo won't help." Tom now called only once a week, asking if I was still paying Melissa. And I couldn't pay her at all. All my savings went to treatment. Melissa was working on minimum wage and often bought groceries herself. From Sarah, just the rare selfies from cafes or stores. A knock at the door came one April afternoon as we were having tea on the balcony. I was telling Melissa about work, suddenly wanting to remember my old self. "I'll get it," said Melissa, throwing a blanket over my shoulders and heading to the door. Tom's voice was unmistakable. "Kate, home?" he asked, irritated. "I'm her husband, you know," he said to Melissa. "Wait in the hallway," she replied. "I'll ask if she wants to see you." I agreed. It had to happen sometime. Tom looked healthy, tanned, new coat, eyes shifty. "I thought I'd stop by. Check in," he muttered, handing me a box of chocolates. I gestured at a chair. "Sit down." "My friend owns a chain of care homes, great doctors. You could sell the apartment. It's too big for you alone." This apartment was left to me by my parents before my marriage to Tom. He had no claim. I asked, "Tom, you want me to sell the apartment?" "No, I mean..." He fidgeted. I looked at him and realized, before me was a stranger. "You're talking about my benefit, but when I was unwell, you left." He frowned, muttered something, and left. A week later, the divorce papers arrived. Tom wanted it done fast. I signed without emotion and immediately gave Melissa a power of attorney over my affairs if my condition worsened. The notary looked at me with understanding. "Do you trust her that much?" "Absolutely," I nodded. "She's the only one who stayed." The doctor was, for the first time, satisfied with my test results. "Positive trend. There's a chance." "A chance at what?" I asked. "A long remission, maybe even recovery, but there's still a lot of work." A year passed. My hair, spiky and uneven, had grown back about an inch. "I'm in remission," I said out loud. Melissa took the news calmly, but that evening brought alcohol-free champagne. "To a new life," she said. "You ran a marathon, Kate. Not everyone makes it." "Are you leaving?" I asked quietly. "I don't know. Usually I leave when patients recover, so they can get back to life without the sickness being a daily reminder. But I'm not sure you're ready yet." I said quickly I could pay. My old firm wanted me back, even just for remote work. "It's not about money," Melissa shook her head. "I just always leave." Over the year, Melissa had become not just my carer, but my anchor, my only close person. "I have a proposal," I said. "Let me sign over the apartment to you." Melissa almost choked on her drink. "Are you crazy?" "No," I smiled. "This apartment holds both beautiful and terrible memories. I want a new life, and you deserve it more than anyone. You saved me, Melissa, literally brought me back." "But where will you live?" she worried. "The doctor told me not to stay in the city. Bad air and food. I'll move to the country, to my parents' old house." "My daughter, it's her own choice, and I hold no grudges." Returning to work, the connections to my old life faded. My old boss, Mr. Green, said, "Specialists like you are hard to find. Besides, we're people." Tom sent a short message. "If you ever need anything." I didn't reply. I erased his number. Nothing from Sarah, except an occasional photo living her American life. One morning, suitcase in hand, I walked out of the building I'd lived in for nearly 20 years. It wasn't my home anymore. There was no sadness, just relief and a sense of something new. A tiny New England town was just what I needed. A cottage among the pines, 10 minutes from the ocean. I woke to seagulls, took tea on the porch. I wrote Melissa my weekly updates, and she replied briskly, always asking about my health. In spring, I went to New York. Needed to meet with the office, see the oncologist. Melissa met me at the station, tan, short-haired. I realized how much I'd missed her. "You look good," she said. "The sea suits you." I spent one night in that apartment, now hers. Not a trace of my old life remained. With tea, Melissa told me, "Your ex-husband and daughter had come by. First calls, then demands for your contact, then threats of the police, accusing Melissa of fraud and taking advantage. Tom's mother had died. They'd lost her place. He'd developed drinking and job problems. Sarah dropped out of college and lived with him." "They only remembered me now," I said. "Your documents are in order," Melissa reminded me. "Let them sue." "What do we do with them?" I asked. "Let's meet and put everything out in the open." I invited them to a cafe. They were 15 minutes late. Tom and Sarah looked worn down. "Kate, you look well," Tom mumbled. "We missed you, worried, but didn't know how to reach out." "Family, that's a word," I said. "Where were you a year ago when I was dying?" Tom tried to defend himself. "We couldn't watch you suffer." For the first time, Sarah met my gaze. I'm 17. I'm not a kid. You're an adult. You made the adult choice to walk away. I didn't know what to do, she almost cried. I understand, I said gently. So I carry no resentment, but I also have no obligations to you anymore. So you're not going to help? Tom flushed. You left me a year ago, with a note. I survived. Now you'll have to survive too. I told Sarah, if you want to study, there are grants, scholarships, part-time jobs. I started out on my own. You'll manage if you want. Someday, if you want to really talk, not about money, my number is the same. I left the cafe without pain or anger, just a sense of relief. That evening, I texted Melissa. Thank you for being there when no one else was. And for the first time in a year, I turned off my phone without waiting for a reply. 3 more days in New York ahead, then a return to the sea, to peace, to the life I fought for, and one I intend to live by my own rules. Did you like the story? Write your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next interesting story. See you tomorrow.